And welcome everybody to another episode of Wrong About Sports. I am mildly optimistic Chicago Bears fan, Brian McDaniel.
And I'm just your quintessential frustrated and disappointed Vikings fan, Karla Bigham.
And we are
wrong about sports. Oh my good God, Brian, these Vikings.
Obviously today, for those of you who are just watching us for the first time or listening to us on the first time, thank you so much. Please find us on Spotify and YouTube and Facebook and give us a like and a follow and a subscribe and a share and all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. We are a podcast where we talk about sports with a heavy emphasis on football, with a heavy emphasis on the NFC North. This week, one of us is a lot happier than the other. But I would say this before we get into everything. The Bears won. They were playing a terrible team. The Vikings lost. They were playing the Super Bowl champions. So I think to a certain extent, I need to temper my enthusiasm, and you maybe need to cut your team more of a break than you're gonna. But
no.
Okay, wait. Hey, I'm not your dad.
It's Wentz.
I'm not here to tell you what to do.
The dude won a Super Bowl. Like, the dude's been around forever. You do not throw interceptions like that. Got to make better decisions. I mean, this time I think there were fewer poor play calling issues. Like, sometimes I think like there's some questionable play calling. It's been better the last, like from London and last week. There's like, or yesterday, maybe like one or two where I was like, and like, obviously, and we could talk about it later, the catch by Hawkinson in the end zone and stuff like that. But like, there really, you just got to make better decisions. And holy Hannah, like Wentz just telegraphs and just stares down his receiver. Like, it is just not it. You're a veteran quarterback, buddy. So, and I think if he's hurt, he just has to say, I just can't physically do this, and either put back in McCarthy or let Brosmer do his thing. And that's what you do, or trade for Wilson, or God forbid you bring back Cousins. But all I can say is I think we all miss Darnold right about now, because we'll talk about him in a second. But it's just like, I don't know. And we had our offensive line pretty much was back in force. We had our we just didn't have Van Ginkel, so we had Cashman back, who's a leader. But that defense, they were just standing around when some poor soul was trying to make a tackle. They just stopped and watched the guy struggle to bring them down. And then a couple times you just saw Cashman fly in and wrap him up and knock him down and look at the dude like, what are you doing? Like, finish. You finished the tackle. So I don't know. But we had O'Neal back at tackle, and we had Cashman back on defense. Van Ginkel was gone. Our kicker is a stud. He keeps us in the game. But yeah, I know they're the former Super Bowl champs a couple times around recently. And they probably are going to be a contender, obviously, again. But like, I don't know. It's just disappointing. You have Hurts that had a game, man. 19 for 23, 326 yards thrown and 3 tutties. And then they have struggled with their pass game all season long. You've had Devonta Smith, AJ Brown, crocodile tears, give me the ball, feed me the ball, give me the ball. Oh, they got the ball yesterday. They had season high of 9 receptions out of 11 for Devonta Smith, 180 yards, 1 tutty, season high. And then for AJ, he had 4 receptions, 121 yards, 2 tutties, season high. So, it's Barkley that now is kind of fizzled. But we're good at that. Let's be honest. Stopping the run is the Vikings' forte. We do not have a secondary, and I would suspect, other than a center, You will see, Smith is probably done. Um, I think you will see us in the draft go high for a secondary and a center. Anyway, that's way
Well,
way off topic.
and Philly had been having so much trouble throwing the ball
Yeah.
that it kind of makes sense that the Vikings would game plan
Yep.
to take Barkley out
Yep.
of it and make Hurts throw. It just didn't work out
Nope.
because he did throw and he threw quite successfully. And the end score was 28-22. I think makes
Yep.
it seem a little closer than it
Yeah.
felt watching the game. But yeah, it was something where it just felt like the Vikings
Yeah.
from jump were just not going to win that game.
Well, and it doesn't get better from here because we have a short week. We play Justin Herbert and the Chargers, and talk about having a game. Oh,
Yeah,
this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. He had Justin Herbert, stud quarterback, huge dude, 420 yards he threw yesterday, 31 rushing yards, three tutties, two interceptions. But Wentz can't really talk. He had two interceptions yesterday. But anyway, so I'm not looking forward to Thursday, and I think you have a quarterback question, right?
short
Like,
week. Yeah.
yeah, short week. If I'm Brosmer, I'm eating my Wheaties, drinking my
Yeah,
protein
well,
shakes,
I mean, with
some extra yoga.
McCarthy too, he was the emergency quarterback, which
Mhm,
meant he could have played if necessary. I
mhm.
kind of wonder if they're going to give Wentz one more week just because it's a short week, and then go back to McCarthy
I
because
don't.
it's
I don't think you do that. I think you put McCarthy in because Wentz is hurt. You could tell. I mean, when Jalen Carter lit him up right in the ribs, he took, and he was hurting the whole rest of the game. Took another pretty massive hit. Although he did muster out 28 yards rushing, which for Wentz is a lot. So anyway,
well,
I we'll see what
sounds
they
like.
do Thursday. I am not excited about that game on Thursday. I think it's going to be problematic.
Well, I think I
So
think I think before the Thursday night game, you might want to take a drink,
yeah,
hopefully from an establishment from our sponsor, the Minnesota Licensed Beverage
there
Association.
we go.
Since 1952, the Minnesota Licensed Beverage Association has been helping licensed beverage retailers in the state of Minnesota with information resources, educational programs, and government affairs services designed to promote and protect their business. All member retailers understand that with the MLBA, you are not alone. Makes me
Well,
want to sing some Michael Jackson.
and I
You
may have
are not alone.
and I may have four in a row, much like the
Woo!
Bears, much like the Bears. So talk about your Bears 26-14
Oh,
yesterday, but
hey,
talk about them four in a row.
Carla, I was
Is
going to
there?
say I have your video to play too, and I got another one. A
Oh,
Carson. I know you're a big Carson Wentz fan right now, so I thought you might like this tweet. I found this tweet. I thought it was great. So it said, I'll just read it before we put it on. But it said, Carson. It was like the coach talking to him. Carson, go win this game, and the QB job is yours. And then this is his response. But
the other I did forget to bring something up. TJ Hawkinson had a really really good play, I will say. Um, in real time as an official, and I am a back judge, and that would have been a judge's call because I forget where the ball was placed, but I mean it happened literally right in front of that back judge. But his back was to where the call was being played. When that happens and it's so fast, it is so hard to make those decisions. And that is why New York is called in. Probably in real time, I think the refs probably got it right. They probably saw the hands under the ball, comes up with the ball. That's the right call as a touchdown. But all scores are reviewed. You look at it, he had the ball under his hands. That was great, but it has to survive the ground. And his hands separated from the ball, upon prior to the completion before he ended his play. So I think New York probably had it correct after being able to see it through. So
do you want me to
that
play it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
why don't
Okay,
you
yeah, here
play
we
it?
go. Because it has his response too. So
Yeah.
DJ, how do you best explain the overturn touchdown? It looked like game control.
No, I mean, I had control the whole time. My hands weren't underneath it. I mean, I don't quite understand how the refs on the field, even after New York overturns it, the refs on the field are saying it's a catch. But they said New York overturns it. So they have nothing to say. I don't understand.
so
Yeah. I mean, he didn't. It separated.
Yeah,
But
no,
it's
it was moving around. I mean, it was a
yeah.
hell of a catch.
Yes.
And one of my, and I have a question for you as a football official too. But what I would love to see dialed back, both in football and in baseball, is when you get these microscopic movements, or when someone's hand comes off the base, just a smidge, because that's, I mean, for 100 and something years, that has not been how the
Right.
game has been played or called. And just because we have the capability of doing that doesn't mean we have to use it, because we could use GPS to tell you exactly whether somebody got a first down or not. And that's only starting to be talked about a little bit. We're just now going to get robo umps in professional baseball. So
Mhm.
they have the ability to, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So
Oh, absolutely.
I would love to not have them in football have to stop the game for 10, 15 minutes to see if a beautiful, awesome play could be, negated because the ball moved just a smidge.
So other than safety plays, and especially in high school, our emphasis is on the point of play. And so if something happens across the field, except for safety, because you want to protect the players, and safety is the number one component of the game. But if a hold happens way on the other side of the field and it has nothing to do with the play, you typically would not call it. You would yell at the kids or tell the coach, like tell them to knock it off, whatever. But the block to the backs are safety plays. But there was one, and typically how I look at it is if two players are running in tandem together, unless you see the hand go behind them and start pushing like down, and that's weird because the kid would automatically know that's exactly what I'm doing and I'm going to get called for that. But if you're running in tandem at the same line, at the same speed, it's very hard to get a block to the back. There was a play yesterday where the officials saw that it was called, and they kept playing that play. I don't remember which two teams it was. It might have been Kansas City and
Vegas.
Vegas that they did that. And I always, my brain is like, if they're running in tandem, I kind of let that go off. I move on to another player, because if you're always looking for that guy that's coming across field when everybody's going downfield, because that person's up to no good.
Well,
And
I want
so, like, that's what you look like for, blocks to the back or blind sides. That's what you're looking for, especially in kickoffs and punts.
Well, and I want to get to the Bears here, but
Yeah.
I did want to ask you a question,
Mhm.
as a football official.
Mhm.
So for calling penalties,
Mhm.
is it that only certain officials are looking for, thus the only ones who are throwing flags? Like, is it one guy is looking for holding on the offensive line, or is it that if you said you were a back judge, correct?
Yeah. For
If
varsity, I am. Yep.
if you see something that isn't called by another official, do you throw it, or is that just not your responsibility?
So that's a good question. I think any safety, if you see it and didn't like, you do have what they call halos. I mean, like little spheres. And so, like, obviously as a line judge, you have a down judge and a line judge, you're looking straight at each other. I've trained my eyes to stay straight forward at the other judge. And as soon as I see that quarterback launch, turn and his arm goes back, now I draw my attention downfield, because that means any interference plays now can take effect. And so, that means there's any touching, anything like that, like illegal men down the field, anything like that now are in play. And so that's kind of how you do that. That ump and ref, they have specific things to watch for roughing the passer, right? And different things like that. I can't watch both the passer and downfield. So yeah, there are certain disciplines that you have in that. But I think even after the play, everybody is supposed to be watching the players come back to the huddles so that there's no um, extracurricular activity after the play and stuff like that. But you know, there's a good. I had a play at one of my last games where there was a complete blindside block. I saw it, but the second I saw my colleague throw his flag, I did not throw my flag. It was not in my area, but I saw it. Had he not thrown his flag, I would have thrown it. Probably you can still throw your flag when you see that because it probably doubles down.
Okay. Well, let's get to the Bears
Yes,
game
4 in a row.
because they're the pride and joy of
Mhm.
Illinois. Chicago Bears bear down.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the Bears played the Saints, who are terrible, but
terrible.
they played the Saints at home in Chicago. It had rained all morning, but then got sunny and beautiful. A buddy of mine was at the game, showed me pictures. He was having a great time. But
Mhm.
so the Bears have now won their fourth game in a row. The Bears are the only team in the NFL that has scored over 21 points or over in every game.
Yeah,
And the Bears defense is leading the NFL in takeaways. So
yep.
going into this year, I had very appropriate expectations. Well, I should say
Mhm.
after the first game of the year, I had very appropriate expectations. And I don't think that the Bears are a wonderfully skilled team. Too many penalties, too many kind of mental mishaps,
Right.
which is a coaching issue to a certain extent. But the coaching has made just the offensive and defensive schemes so much more competent. And
Yeah.
that is, the sad thing is that for a legacy franchise like the Bears, I'm just looking for competence. If you're going to lose, just like I said last week, just lose when they played the Redskins. I mean, the Commanders. Just lose normal. Nothing spectacular. Don't lose in a fashion that makes you be
Yeah.
on ESPN over and over and over. Now the Bears have won 4 in a row. Their losses, other than to the Vikings week 1, have been reasonably normal. But this game was an impressive one
Mhm.
from the defensive standpoint. The
Sure
Bears were
was.
flying around, making sacks, getting fumbles. I think they had 3 interceptions or at least 2 interceptions. Now, to be fair, the Saints are in a rebuilding mode. They got Spencer Rattler as their quarterback now. Rattler, who finished his time at South Carolina, was on the Oklahoma Sooners
With Williams.
at the same time as Williams was before
Yeah.
he went to USC. But this was a game that was, I think, won definitely by the Bears defense. Caleb Williams had some
Stunk.
impressive. He had some because that's your fantasy team
And
talking.
he only he only got me like 4 points, and my
Yes,
brother might beat me. This is
it's not cool.
bad.
That's not cool. But he had a bad game
Yeah.
statistically, and to the eye, it was not great.
Mhm.
His scrambling ability is shockingly good. I didn't know that was really his game at USC, but it is.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know how many times at the top of my lungs I screamed, "Throw the ball!" But anyway,
Brian,
he threw 1 interception, which I would say, he is not a turnover machine. Even as a rookie last year and this year, he is pretty careful with the ball,
Yeah, he's disciplined.
which is good. And the Bears, their kicker Cairo Santos is hurt. They brought in former Michigan Wolverine Jake Moody, who has done the job to this point, but they beat a bad team. They beat a bad team at home. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Coming off a good road win in Washington last week. And one other thing, I was in Washington last week. I was in DC for work. If I would have just come in one day earlier, I could have gone to the Bears Commanders game. and it just never occurred to me to do that. So shame on me for being a bad fan. But right now, you got the Packers at the top of the division at 4-1-1. The Lions are playing tonight. Then you got the Bears at 4-2, and you got the Vikings at 3-3. Once again, we're in an amazingly good division.
Yeah.
Because if the Vikings are your last place team, and it won't stay that way. But it's a pretty good. The NFC North is very strong this year.
I just want to make a really quick production note that, Brian, your critique that you made on Williams' performance is maybe the most devastating critique I've ever heard. Which is that your performance to the eye and statistically was very bad. If I had to hear that in person, that would be crushing. But, yeah.
He had 172 yards and 1 interception. Williams did, and to your point, he is very disciplined with the ball. But Swift, the running back, he had 124 yards and a tutty. So it was his day yesterday. He's been very solid, very consistent for that team, for the offense. I have to say that one thing that concerns me as a Vikings fan is that we have a tough schedule coming up. We're playing Chargers. I forget who's after that, but the Bears, they play the Ravens. Now everybody's like, "Ooh, Ravens tough." They're beat up, and they're coming off a bye. I think it's a very winnable game for the Bears.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson is back. Roquan Smith in a Chicago Bears revenge game is coming back. It's in Baltimore. So we'll have to see how that goes. Now, one thing I do want to talk about,
it's a real test for the team on all fronts. Is my point. Yeah, is that it's winnable, and it's a good test for Ben Johnson and for all facets of the team.
Because they beat the Commanders last week, which is a good road win. But then the Commanders, kind of got pasted by Dallas.
Yeah, they did.
Dallas is kind of getting their act together.
CD had a game.
CD had a game. Pickens did well, and Javonte Williams, who I have on lots of fantasy teams. I wish I could tell you it's because I'm a genius, but it's not. It's just you can get him late. But anyway, he's doing great. But with the Bears, so I gave, as Gabe said, a critique of Caleb Williams that was not all that favorable. But one thing, and on this program, I'm the conservative guy. I'm the guy who you would think would have all these prejudices, which I don't, but you would think that I would. But the amount of scrutiny that people give Caleb Williams for every little thing he does, anything he does well, they chalk up to something else. Anything he does poorly, it's because they treat him like he's this terrible person or this terrible quarterback, of which he's neither. And I think it's homophobic. It's racial. He's not gay, but he paints his nails. People don't like that. And so I think these old school commentators, last week, Troy Aikman, this week, Daryl Johnston, are so hard on him. And I think it's old white man bull crap that they just don't like that he just does whatever he wants. And I was there a little bit. I didn't think that they should have drafted him, but it had nothing to do with that other stuff. I just didn't think that was their greatest need. And I feel like I'm eating crow a little bit there, but the scrutiny and just the jackassery that goes on. I mean, because it's one thing to if you have Caleb Williams up against Jaden Daniels or maybe another good quarterback, but he was up against Spencer Rattler, who is also a big hunk of shit when it comes to playing quarterback, pardon my language. But they were like giving him like, look at Rattler doing the best with what he can. And it's just stupid, and I'm getting sick of it. And I think that more people need to be calling that out who just aren't Chicago Bear fans. The other thing I would say is there's nothing more pathetic than I think a fan that blames the officials for their team winning and losing. And the Bears won last week. They won this week. So it ultimately didn't cost them any games. But it sure seems like there is some ticky-tack crap that the Bears get caught on that does not seem to apply to Caleb Williams. He gets knocked around, he gets headshots, he gets all these things, and they just let it go. The Bears won. Caleb Williams seems to be pretty durable, but it is something that, as a fan and somebody who is watching it pretty closely, I do think that the criticism of Caleb Williams is way past fair.
What do you think those optics and whatever? How much do you think that changes his how many wins until the Bears are drafting? For instance, do you think he has a higher bar to get over because of that media?
I think he definitely does because Jaden Daniels, who was taken, I think, number 5 that year by Washington, the same year as Caleb Williams, he's had an easier time. And part of that might be, just because he's more of a running quarterback, but he's been throwing the ball just fine. But he's also African American. So you can't say that there's a racial bias against Williams that wouldn't apply to Daniels for sure. But I do think more than their race, because black quarterbacks, is not something that is particularly rare now, or that people shake their head at. No, that's something that's not a thing anymore, like it was when I was a kid, where it was something that was remarked about. But I do think that there is just this undertone that Caleb Williams is not as tough, is not a football player, because he'll wear pink and he'll do his fingernails and he'll have a purse.
Carry a purse. Yeah,
carry a purse. And is that weird? Maybe. But you know what? Let him do whatever he wants. He has a very, very, very attractive girlfriend. Not that that should matter. If he came out tomorrow, it does not impact at all what he does on the field. But I do think the bar is higher. I think he's going to have to win a playoff game and play well in it, because this week the Bears won, but he didn't really play well in the game. So I think it's harder to kind of eschew that criticism. Now, next week against Lamar Jackson, who's a very established African American quarterback, I think that if Williams can go toe to toe with him, I think that that he might be getting a little bit more credit. But it's not. He shouldn't be judged against just black quarterbacks. He shouldn't be judged against straight, gay, or in between. He should be judged solely about what we see on the field. Last week was good. This week was not good. End of story.
Is he a top 15 quarterback?
What was that?
Oh, Gabe? Sorry. That was my last question. Is he a top 15 quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah. I just also think that he's not consistent. And so as soon as he starts getting more consistent, then I think you'll see that his offensive line still has work.
Yeah, they look like they got, because they have 4 new people on their offensive line. This week, more than the prior weeks, it looked like they were starting to gel. You can actually see a little bit more coordination. Though there were 2 different times that their center, Drew Dahlman, who they got from Atlanta, didn't actually give the ball to Caleb Williams. He held on to it, and there were 2 different times they called a penalty on that. So they need to clean that up a little bit. But I do want to give the O-line some credit that they were opening up holes, not just for DeAndre Swift, but for their rookie Kyle Monungai.
Yeah, he had a day.
Who had a good coming out. I would have thought that Roshan Johnson would have been the clear number 2, but it's not. It's Monungai, and he looked impressive.
So before we talk about tonight's games, which are the Monday night games, real quick, those Dolphins. So last week, as soon as we were done doing this show, the Titans fired our favorite Irish lad, Brian Callahan, and replaced him with Mike McCoy. Might be Irish, I don't know. Yeah. But the Titans fired the first coach of the season. Do we think Mike McDaniel will be number 2 because the Dolphins are 1-5?
Well, the Dolphins definitely are playing like number two. But Mike McDaniel, who was, kind of the wonderkind, the young guy he's very funny.
Mhm.
No relation to
No
me.
relation. We got to clarify that every week.
Clarify that. But I mean, he definitely will not make it to Thanksgiving. Uh,
No,
and so I think that he will be the next coach to get the axe. Though what happened with the Giants giving up 33 points in the fourth quarter certainly puts Brian Dable not in the fireable category, but certainly back on the hot seat. Even Scadaboo and Jackson
Dart.
Dart might not be able to save him, but they don't play defense, and it
No,
wasn't their fault.
no.
So yeah, but I think Mike McDaniel definitely is the next one to go.
Yeah, I think Brian saved himself from being fired during a season. He might
Yeah.
not make it past Bloody Monday, but depending on the rest of the season, Dart and Scadaboo, I think saved him. Okay, so we have two games tonight. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Detroit Lions. Lions favored, Avi. Talk about a beat up team. I don't know two more beat up teams more than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the 49ers. I do not know. The Tampa Bay, so I love me some Baker Mayfield. Dude is intense. And he has an arm. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't have an arm, if you don't have anybody to throw it to. So, you have let's see, Godwin's out. Evans, I don't think is playing today because he's out. Both have
They
some
said that
hamstrings.
he might be back, but both he and Egbuka
Yeah.
have
The
got hammy.
sensation, the rookie sensation,
Yep.
Egbuka. So his three receivers out. And so problems there. Not to mention then, somebody that was actually their running back. Why am I drawing
Was
drawing
Bucky Irving, who's
Bucky
out.
Irving, who was drafted in most fantasy football leagues fairly high,
Yeah.
out, hasn't played since September.
Yep.
And so he's just has had a year, had a season so far with injuries. And so anyway, and then you have the Lions, who they're fine on run defense against the run defense. Not so hot. They're a lot like the Vikings, not so hot on the pass defense. And then because of some shenanigans after the game a couple weeks ago, Branch is out. Brian Branch is out. And so their secondary is even more weak. And then I think somebody who I'm not a big fan of because I think he hurts people is Joseph Kirby. He's a safety, I think.
Yeah.
And so he's not playing. So anyway, so they're beat up in the secondary, but that might not matter if you don't have receivers to throw to. And so you got a strong defense on the Lions, and the Bucks have a strong defense. So that's just, that's kind of how I am thinking of the game today. And so my no, I can't. Okay, my prop plays are, believe it or not, I think there's going to be, I know you're going to say, well, you just said that he doesn't have anybody to throw to. He does have a nice tight end to throw to. And he does have Baker Mayfield. Yeah.
A nice tight end.
High praise.
Baker Mayfield does have some tight ends to throw to and receivers to throw to. And because I think the Lions are very weak there, I think Baker's going to have himself a night. And he does like to throw the ball because he likes to show off that arm. So my first prop play is Baker Mayfield over 241 and a half yards. And then because I believe that the Lions offense has been extremely consistent this whole season, I think I'm going to go Jared Goff with over 2 touchdowns, over 1.5 touchdowns. So he essentially has to get 2 touchdowns. So the over on 1.5 touchdowns. What do you have?
Yep. So I also think that Baker Mayfield has a nice tight end. So I am picking Cade Otton, who is
Yeah,
uh,
he is.
that glorious tight end.
Yeah.
I have him at over 3.5 receptions with all those receivers. Even if they some of them play, I don't know that they're going to be at full strength. They won't be, or they might play and then have to come out of the game. So I think that there's going to be a lot that goes through Otton. So I think him getting 4 receptions, it will not be that tough. And then my second prop bet, kind of go along the lines of your analysis. I think that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to score a touchdown. So I have him as an anytime touchdown at it's minus 200, so it's pretty chalky. But I think that he's going to have a really good night tonight. I think Montgomery is as well, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs scoring a touchdown will happen early, and then we can just enjoy the rest of the game.
Nice, nice. And then the later game is Houston versus Seattle, West Coast.
West
Now,
Coast.
now this one I think is going to be a good game.
Yep.
This one I think is going to be a good game. It's going to be close. It's Seattle's favored by 2.5. I think you have contrary to what we said about San Francisco and Tampa Bay, these teams are actually healthy, well stacked in the receiving department as well. And a couple of quarterbacks that I mean, this is Darnold's first year with Seattle, but he's been much like last year. He's been consistent. He has a very good passer rating towards the top of the pack. They both have very strong defenses, and so I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. And I think I have Smith Nigba as my receiver, and he does not disappoint week after week, and he leads the receivers in the league right now for yards. And so I just think it's going to be a close game, and both defenses like to rush, and so Houston's defense is like top of the line, top. They have. I looked on ESPN yesterday. They have allowed the second fewest yards, the fewest rushing yards, and the second fewest passing yards. So, with that, I'm going to say Sam Darnold. I'm going to give him the over.
All right.
On rushing 5.5 yards because I think he's going to be scrambling because he panics, as we know, when he's in the pocket. So he's going to do some running. He's going to be running for his life tonight.
Not a great characteristic for an NFL quarterback. He panics.
Yeah. But I think this defense, this Texan defense is going to keep him running tonight. And then Nick Chubb is great. And I think he's going to be doing a lot of checkdowns and running tonight. I think he's going to have a night. So I'm doing the over on 35.5 yards on Nick Chubb.
Is that receiving or rushing?
Rushing.
All right. Okay. Well, mine are similar, but and I'm also going to be talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba. He has been super impressive. I think getting rid of Tyler Lockett, getting rid of DJ Metcalf, really, they knew what they were doing because they knew that they had a star in the making there. So I'm going to take the over on 87.5 yards.
There you go.
I don't think it needs to be a very prolific night from Darnold to get them there. And then I'm going to disagree with you just a smidge on Houston, the run game, because Joe Mixon, I don't know that he's ever coming back.
No, he might be done.
It's been Chubb to this point, but I can see them starting to transition a little bit to their rookie Woody Marks. His over on rushing yards is 29.5. So they both actually could get the over on that if they have a game. But I'm going to take the over 29.5 yards for Woody Marks, and we'll see if the torch is being passed from Mr. Chubb to Mr. Marks. And
there we go.
2 games. Last thing I want to say before we have to wrap up is I don't think I love having 2 games on Monday night. I kind of like having the one Monday game that I can focus on and not having to be flipping back and forth. I know that some people's TVs allow you to watch two at the same time, but if McDaniel had a vote, it would be other than maybe week one, just one Monday night game.
I like more football, the better.
All right. Well, with that, I am evidently Caleb Williams defender and Bear fan Brian McDaniel.
And I am still frustrated and disappointed Vikings fan Karla Bigham.
And we are Wrong About Sports. See you next week, everybody.
See you.